I often feel rejected, and in reality, it's just not what God has for me in this particular season or even at all. I've had to endure heartbreak, from partners that particularly weren't for me, and it was hard to accept in that moment. This has took a toll on my self-worth, and it has made me feel less than. I've adapted people pleasing into my life to be able to seek that approval, to seek that acceptance. And what it has done to me over time has made me lose value in myself, make me feel that I have to constantly prove to people that I am worth it. I've went through trials and tribulations in friendships and relationships, and I had to get to a space to be able to be comfortable with rejection and be able to realize that it's not what God has for me. It's just the absolute no. And not to take rejection personal. Some of the biggest steps or biggest phases I've been through in life and I've been rejected has led me to even better places. And in those particular seasons, it's hard to identify because you just feel the answer of no. It's not you, not the acceptance is not coming from your reality. Welcome back to Growth Purposes Only podcast with me, your host, Princess Serafina. Join me Thursdays for all new episodes on all streaming platforms and on our YouTube channel for Growth Purposes Only, no spaces. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share and leave comments below. I pray that whomever is supposed to receive this message, it reaches you and it uplifts you. I believe the devil is very strategic in his attacks. Me dealing with a lot of rejection in my life from my parents, from my peers, to job opportunities, to social circles and platforms. It really has made me feel like I was not worth it. And a lot of people judge you by what they see on the outside, that you're so beautiful and, all the things you've accomplished. But when you're not being accepted by man, none of that seems worth enough to be able to give yourself that self assurance and reassurance that you are enough. I feel like the devil uses that in every stage of my life. Back when I didn't have God in my life, I felt it more prevalent, even especially in social circles or, out in crowds where I might have not particularly felt accepted. And I felt like I've always had to do more to feel accepted, to feel like I belonged. Otherwise, it'll just be always everyone else and not me. And, walking with God now, I'm able to realize and see that the fruit from that to not being chosen, because I would have been stuck. I would have been feeling the validation through these people that I thought reassured me in my worth instead of finding my reassurance in the Lord. On this episode, I want to talk about rejection because I've faced it so much, and I feel like a lot of us face it and really don't understand it. And we talk about it as they're just not for us, when in reality, we're just not for them. Wherever God is taking you in your life, you have to be able to be okay with the no's, be okay with people not choosing you regardless, because we're not here to please man. We're only here to please God. I remember in relationships, I lost myself. I lost my identity. I became single, I want to say in 2017, and I journeyed out into this world of like dating. I was really like a mom, a wife early on in my life, just taking on the responsibility of being a mom. And I was just taking care of my children. Whatever it was, all my money was invested in them. I even lost my own identity as who I was before my kids too. So becoming single, I had to kind of like rebrand. And I think during that time, I was still approaching dating and approaching people in the same personality or personnel that I was when I was in relationships. It felt very familiar to high school. So that's how I, perceived it. What we had in common, the things that we liked made us friends, not realizing the places we were going, the vision we have for our lives, the outlook on the world. All of those things matter when you are trying to be compatible and create and build with another individual. When it comes to relationships, I started dating someone and I was very so much still in that wife mode, not realizing that that type of behavior had to be earned. So my first experience with rejection was when I was dating this guy, and I came into it like a little naive, and well, not a little, very naive, and he had a family, but he was telling me like he was going to leave them. It wasn't working out anymore. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we dated as if it was like nothing. And I met him on a dating site too. So it was like a whole new world for me. I was just this amazing princess, and I was just doing all these wife qualities for him. And then somehow we had mutual friends with his then girlfriend, and so some information was shared, and she got back to me and she kind of approached me. So we had a conversation on the woman to woman side, and she basically, I just told her, I'm like, well, he said he was leaving, that you guys weren't together anymore. He was waiting for the least, naive little me, just telling all the things that he told me, not paying attention to his actions, because I just wanted what I wanted for my life. And she came to me like, well, we just re-signed the lease, and, just basically spilling all the beans, all the things that he was withholding and lying to me about. He then came to my home later that day and, kind of drunk, and was like all over the place. I guess she had came to his job and bust out his windows. I really am, thank God that I'm saved from this type of lifestyle. But she came to his job and bust out his window. So he came to my home, just all over the place, drunk, different things like that. So, me being who I am, I'm like, you know what? Because she had told me on the phone, he gonna need somewhere to stay. So I told him, like, if you need somewhere to stay, or if you're gonna stay at your mom's, you're free to stay here. Whatever you need to do, figure it out. Come to find out, to make a long story short, I found out on Facebook after about a month that she had made a post like they always come back home. And I was like, what? Because, during that month's time, he's like coming over, spending time with me. I'm thinking like, maybe this didn't end with the way that he thought it would, but maybe it gave us that new chapter. And no, I called him and he said that he was going back home. And I was just like crying for days and days and days. And it was very hurtful. Like, I began to smoke, I began to drink. It really is what started all these like coping mechanisms and toxic behaviors to be able to get over it. I just couldn't understand. And especially coming from that world of being loved by your partner and being treated like a wife, it really wasn't what I needed in that time to make me still feel worth those things. So that kind of ended. I met someone else, and it just became really like a cycle. I just kept really meeting different guys, still showing up as me, the wife quality, and every single time I was becoming rejected for the person that they wanted for their life. And self-esteem wise, I was just taking a hit after hit. I started to lose myself. I started to dress more provocative, more desirable. I started to pay attention to the patterns of like what caught the attention of males. Even on social media, like I was like looking at, the likes and the things like that, whatever attracted the attention that make people seek me out, not caring about my values or my morale. I just gave all of that up because I truly wanted to feel accepted. And it was so hard to deal with rejection. It was so unfamiliar to me in the dating scene. Like coming up, I was always someone wanted to date. So to be in a space where people were choosing other people over me, it was just like repetitively, like just killing me self-esteem wise over and over. I remember the things that I used to post on social media at family, talking to me about the way I dressed on social media. And at the time, I didn't want to hear it because it was giving me the attention that I wanted because I was getting rejected. And even in those instances where I was getting the attention, it still wasn't validating. It still wasn't, I pick you. But, over time, I just became numb to it. I would still cry. I would still feel how I felt. But then I started becoming more like them, more like the people that hurt me. And I was not recognizing myself. Like I didn't notice myself. I abandoned my whole role as a parent. That was like, hard to cope with, like as I gave my life to God, just to reflect back on parts of my life where I'm like shameful of. But, I'm reborn, so I know I can be proud of those moments because they shaped me, and I don't have to condemn myself because of it. But like, I completely abandoned my role as a parent. I was out every single night. I believe that first year I was out every weekend for a year. Had a babysitter, didn't really care. The girls were gone for 3 or 4 days at a time. Um, they were so young and innocent. They had nothing, to do with my pain, but they were taking the impact, like they were feeling it. My youngest daughter at the time, she was like spent most of her time with her dad. Like, I was just completely out of it. Like, the mother I used to be was just gone, and the person I used to know was just gone, all because I had became a part of the world. I gave up my morality to be a girl that everyone liked, to be desired by men, to be lusted after, and to be okay with it, to be okay with the one night stands, to be okay with the interactions from men that had women as if like I was the catch. I don't know. Rejection really took a toll on me and on my identity. And I was still such a sweet girl at the core because people didn't even know that I was that person. It was like, you're really a cool girl. Are you really? Because that's who I was at the core. But the way I was changing on the surface to be more accepted by men was becoming of me. There were a lot of different guys I came into contact with that, wanted to do business with me, that liked my mindset, that liked my conversation, but then they never still wanted to date me. And not date me like that, but like date me on a serious level, or to take me serious, to be committed to me, to be committed to my family. And I had to take that pretty hard to be able to continue at that. Like, I feel like I was falling into a more deeper hole. I then met a guy and he was pretty cool, but he told me I needed to heal. And at the time I did not understand what he meant. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about? I had made the toxic life, the toxic culture, the worldly culture so much a part of my identity. I thought he was weird. But, going through life and healing, I realized I really needed that. Like, I really needed that advice. Who knows where I would have been if I was healed and running into particularly maybe some good guys during that time, because I'm sure I did. But there's just one particular season of my life where I was like rejected and I tried to take my own life. And I think it was so hard on me. It was during COVID. It was back when the world was living off stimulus checks, and I was traveling the world because there was nothing else to do, but I wanted to still travel. My then best friend had a travel nursing gig, and she was in DC at the time, and I went to go visit her. And when I went to go visit her, previously I met someone else that out of town in Miami, but they lived in Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania was open, but DC was closed. So I'm telling her, like, let's just take a drive, to PA. And I know someone up there. He can show us around. I had a really good time when I went to go visit him. Although it ended very toxic. Another girl from there was like hitting me up, telling me it's our boyfriend, all this other stuff. It was just too much. But like, he was open to it, and I didn't want anything from him. And that, you know what I mean? I'm just like, show me and my friend a good time. Like, show us around. And he was down for it. So we planned it. We drive out to PA, and he wasn't answering the phone. But, I'm thinking like, we're in a car. We have time. We get there, he's still not answering the phone. So we just winging it at this time, driving around, shopping, going to different places, just being outside. And then I remember at one point, he did answer the phone, and he was basically saying something was going on, and that he just needed a little time, or he was going to meet us somewhere. And he was trying to give us places to go. So I'm just like, well, what's up with, when you come in? Like, you know what I mean? Mind you, it was no strings attached. I wasn't trying to be with this man. I was just really trying to give me and my friends something to do out of town. So long story short, he never showed up. He never contacted me after that. He never answered the phone again. And I had to sit with that feeling of being rejected again. I had to sit with the feeling of feeling like, wow, so you couldn't even like answer. You couldn't even tell me, like, be real with me. Like, me and my friend drove all the way out here. It was just like a lot of pressure. And then like not being able to have that safe space, like to be at home to deal with your disappointment, really was like hard to cope with. So we drove home. Well, not home, back to DC. And she went into the hotel and I kind of just stayed outside. I needed to like clear my mind and get back in my mental space. I was literally having a mental breakdown. I truly think I was just like at a wit's end. I had been through this for 5 years, 4 or 5 years now. And I'm just like, I can't do this anymore because now I really don't feel worth it. I just feel like people only just lust after me. People only want one thing from me. They always say I'm this good person, but nobody ever wants to treat me the way I want to be treated or treat me the way that I should be treated. And I went home back to Cleveland and I was texting my best friend and we were talking about, just how I was feeling. And I was just telling her, like, I just don't want to be here anymore. Like, I just don't want to do this anymore. Because, with the world being the way it was, like working from home, having my kids be in school from home, just trying to find like my rhythm, trying to have space, trying to learn, to grow, and even just having like the environment that nurture that was just so hard on me. And I had to go back home to that after just being completely tired. I began to find a safe space in my relationships or in my situationships. Like I felt like a little sense of worth when I got the attention, things like that. So when I stopped getting it, or it was just like this repetitive cycle of it, it was just like, okay, I clearly am not worth anything. Like, yes, I'm pretty. You're telling me I'm pretty, but you don't see past that. And that day I found some painkillers and I remember taking whatever was left in the bottle. And my friend was nervous for me because I stopped responding. Like I immediately wanted the pain to go away. I immediately wanted to just not be here anymore. Like I was just tired. Like tired of the constant disappointment, of the letdowns, of the unworthiness, not feeling it myself. Like the likes, the attention was always short term. I went home to my kids who were just kids at the time. They didn't understand what I needed. Not having a support system. It just really, you know, became weary and heavy on my spirit. And there's just the spirit of rejection just became so heavy and so weary. And I just wanted out. So it was a very humbling experience. She called my family and they took me to the hospital. I had to stay into the psychiatric department for about 3 days away from family. I couldn't have my phone or anything that could potentially harm myself. And it was just truly just quiet. I don't know how I felt in the moment, knowing that I tried to take my own life. I don't know how I felt knowing that I was going to leave my kids to no one. I think I was very selfish in that time, just trying to get out of the pain that I currently felt from being rejected. And, I came home and not a lot of people knew about what happened. I confided in a couple people about it. And I'm just grateful that God saved me and that I'm here today to share that testimony. That happened in 2021, around that time. And 2021, my life began to change. I got tired of it. Like I just got tired of things happening and always going the same route. And I just start with my tongue claiming things, how I wanted to change. And then things start happening, but still going through rejection with men. And I told this story already about the guy, but I got in therapy with dealing with him. And I'm thinking like, maybe this could be it. I could finally have someone to grow with and get better with. But it was a lot of manipulation in that. And it was a lot of rejection in that too. Like, you're crazy or you're this, you're that. Just like finding ways to make me the problem. And it was just a lot heavy on my mind because it's like I'm trying to fix myself. But then on the contrary, you're saying these things about me because you're not owning up to your word. You're not owning up to what you're saying to me. And I think a lot of times that when we're vulnerable and we're trying to grow and things like that, if we allow the wrong people into our mental and into our space, that they can really become of us. Like they can get in our head and make us believe things. Like he was very narcissistic and I was so vulnerable at the time. He was taking advantage of that for control purposes. But I eventually got to the space I am here today. And in 1 Peter 2:4, it says, as you come to him, the living stone, rejected by humans, but chosen by God. Since I've been walking with God, I have not desired anyone's opinion, anyone's thought of me. I've been the most confident in my life that I've been ever. Even when I'm dating or in the getting to know people phase, I don't care. The things that I used to be so insecure about, the things that I used to be so overwhelmed with have not been a burden, have been one of my strongest attributes about myself. I'm currently going natural, as you can see, and this is not something I would have boldly done. It was always wigs, bust downs, weave, color. Like I was always reinventing myself, and now I'm in the stage of being authentically myself, the way God made me, the way God sees me, and I'm just proud to be here. I'm thankful for my Lord and Savior for giving me the opportunity to be able to be only accepted by Him. Like I only seek God's acceptance. I thought today I would be a little bit more emotional about sharing my testimony, but it's so much power in telling your truth. It's so much power in owning it because it has shaped me, and those things can't hold me captive anymore. I thank God for a lot of the things that I've been through, physically, mentally, and emotionally, the tolls that they've had on me, and how I've been able to overcome them with Him by my side. Just a lot of scriptures just keep me grounded in the Bible. They remind me who I am in Christ. And when I pray and ask for that, reminder, that reassurance, like the subtle peace that I feel over my life, over the thoughts that of other people, even with on my platform and sharing videos and things. Sometimes I get in my moments where I feel like it won't be accepted or that I care just a little bit. I remind myself that you know I'm not worried about pleasing anybody but God. And going forward, I encourage you guys to do the same. It's hard when you switch your life over. It's hard to be able to be comfortable in it. But you have to be bold in Christ. You can't do this walk passive, because God calls us into this light then to use us. So the only way to be used is to be bold in your faith. So I encourage you guys today to not be consumed or, worried about rejections, not to be worried about validation from men, validation from other people, and not want to be accepted. Be the black sheep. Stand out in your faith. It's so rewarding. There's nothing on earth that can give you your salvation. And when you think about that, you think about the clothes that you wear, that you use to impress other people, the styles in your hair, the language, the walk, your presentation on social media. Like none of that will get you into heaven. Only your faith and, you're walking with Christ. So thank you for tuning in to another episode of Growth Purposes Only with me, your host, Princess Serafina. Remember, you are not alone. It's spiritual, not personal. Until next time, grow gracefully.